The first thing I did was send a picture to my wife, and I said, "It's the spoon." She said, "Call the police," Foster told the Associated Press. Brian Bauer again, and again, I just picture him trying not to laugh while he says this. I don't know what happened to Arcane.
Yeah, it sounds like they went from, what was the last game they made, Dishonored 2?
Well, it was Deathloop, which was
Deathloop, right.
interesting, but not my cup of tea. But no, they went from Prey and Dishonored. Dragons actually don't like getting punched in the nose. I don't know if you're aware. They don't like getting booped in the snoot.
Yeah, do not boop a dragon snoot.
Do not boop the dragon snoot. If you keep giving them that and they kind of go, "I still want to do it." All right. Do you know what month it is?
No longer April, it is May. It is actually currently May the 5th. Or the 5th of May, so it's Revenge of the 5th.
Revenge of the 5th. What happens on the 6th of May?
I think it's something with the Sith, maybe. I don't know if it has an actual name.
I would certainly hope it would be Revenge of the 6th, but we've already done Revenge of the 5th.
Yeah, you can't do two of those. Anyways.
Well, I mean, Star Wars has done two of those. But anyway, hey everybody, welcome to Total Pebble Knockdown. I am Obi-Wan Nathan Obi.
I don't think you are.
And you are R2 Alex 2.
Alex 2D2.
Alex 2D2. There you go.
And let the Wookiee win? I don't know. It's no longer Star Wars Day. If you're listening when this comes out, that was last week, so happy belated Star Wars Day.
Listen, every day is Star Wars Day in your heart. Enough Star Wars, time to get into other stupid things. Let's try that.
Yes.
I wasn't going to do a weekly muse this week, but then a story came across my table, and I was like, well, we got to talk about this. I'm sorry. It was a story that I missed from last month, and I am very sad that I missed it, but I got to talk about it.
I'm digging up old news, and I like it already.
Yeah, that's right. I'm digging this up. But Alex, they found the spoon. They found the spoon, Alex. You need more context.
What spoon are we talking about?
Okay. I probably need to give you more context than that.
Yes, I think everyone here needs more context.
Okay.
Unless the title gives it away, but I don't know the title yet.
Let me give you the headline. Giant spoon taken from Arizona Dairy Queen found thanks to Pokemon Go.
Fuck.
Okay. So, let me tell you this harrowing story. At the end of March, actually, a Phoenix, Arizona Dairy Queen, which features this 15-foot-tall red plastic spoon outside the restaurant.
I think you meant featured, past tense at this point.
Featured. Had it stolen by scofflaws in the middle of the night.
Scofflaws?
Yes, scofflaws, I say. Scoffed of laws, they are. The franchise manager, Raman Kalra, really begged them to give back the giant spoon. I love this quote. "I appeal to the person. This spoon is too big to eat anything. We want you to bring it back. We will not ask any questions." So, Pooja Kalra, the wife of the owner, said, "We were kind of upset, but then more puzzled. What are they going to do with a spoon?"
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, like, I understand people steal stuff like that all the time because they can, I think is the thrill of it, maybe?
Yes.
But, like, a lot of things like that, it's like, what's the practical purpose of stealing it? Like, are you gonna do something with this? Are you gonna sell it? Who's gonna buy that?
Are you going to ransom it? Are you going to send, like, a proof of life with the little today's paper in front of the spoon?
You just have the end of the spoon in a little Dairy Queen Blizzard cup?
Yes, exactly. I'll send you a piece of this every day until you comply. I need that the ransom letter is written out of, like, Blizzard letters from the Dairy Queen in order to do. But anyway, Sergeant Brian Bauer confirmed officers were called and are investigating. No suspects have been identified. I keep thinking to myself that the police in this investigation must have been trying not to laugh. But at any rate, This is something I found fascinating, though. This is one of the reasons they actually wanted the spoon back. Getting another spoon made, delivered, and then installed would cost over $7,000.
Yeah, it's a big sign, essentially. So.
It's a big spoon.
Yeah, that's a lot of custom work for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, the Kalras are franchise managers, so they own many of the Dairy Queens that are in the area, but this is the only one that features a giant spoon, and it was sort of a landmark where kids could, like, sit in the bowl of the spoon and take pictures outside the restaurant. So, I guess, it's a fun little biggest spoon.
Kind of like those big Adirondack chairs.
Yeah, like the big Adirondack chairs that you can sit in. It's fun, I guess. The staff at the Phoenix location started wearing "Where's My Spoon" t-shirts with a red spoon and the DQ logo. They had flyers to post at various branches around Metro Phoenix. The reward, 1 Blizzard treat from every flavor of the summer menu. That's pretty worthwhile. But
yeah. I would do it just for the menu.
Just for that. Just get me my Blizzard on. But anyway.
Little known fact, though, first of all, I love Dairy Queen. I am a Blizzard fanatic.
What's your favorite Blizzard?
Probably Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, that's they have the different flavors, and I'm like, gotta try them.
Yeah.
When I lived in the last place, I had a Dairy Queen down the street, like less than a mile away. I don't know where the closest one is to me here. I'm gonna have to look.
Cut to a few days later, okay? It's April 3rd. Michael Foster, 52, was playing Pokemon Go when he spotted the 15-foot spoon around 7 a.m. It was lying on the ground behind a fence that surrounds a Phoenix Middle School baseball field just 2 miles from the scene of the heist. The first thing I did was send a picture to my wife, and I said, "It's the spoon." She said, "Call the police," Foster told the Associated Press. Brian Bauer again, and again, I just picture him trying not to laugh while he says this. "I can confirm the Dairy Queen red spoon was located and recovered this morning." This is in an email, probably for the best. A school maintenance man came over and pushed it over the fence to Foster, who handed it to Phoenix police. "I set it down. They actually did the lifting after we got it over the fence," Foster said. "They strapped it onto the top of the police cruiser." Alex, there's a picture here of a giant red spoon atop a police cruiser that I really need you to see. I think I should probably...
But also, in editing, this needs to be on the screen.
Oh, this is on the screen right now. If I have not put it on the screen, everybody, I have not done my job anyway.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
How big did you say this spoon was?
15 feet.
How big is this car?
Probably 20 feet.
Okay, I guess I didn't think cars were 15 feet in length.
Well, in the right light, if you backlight it correctly, I mean, it could...
I mean, is the spoon coming off over the hood and down towards the ground then?
Look, it was probably cold at 7 a.m. Maybe the spoon shrunk a bit.
But also, I feel like if you're gonna put a spoon with a bowl... the bowl part of the spoon.
Yeah.
The part. I feel like if you're gonna put that on top of a car, you transport it with that face down, so the air goes over the curve and not into the curve, because that's how you. That's not how aerodynamics works.
Alex, they're strapping a giant spoon to the top of a car. I don't think aerodynamics are their biggest concern at this point. I don't necessarily think that was a big thing they had to think about at that moment. Robin Cholera confirmed on that Monday that he was on his way to pick up the spoon. Quote, "We are happy to have our spoon back, and we are looking forward to the neighborhood creating more smiles and stories with this now world-famous spoon." The one problem is that this was a month ago, and I'm just finding out about it now.
Yeah, I guess it didn't go as viral as you were thinking it might have.
The one thing that is missing from this story is it mentions that Michael Foster was playing Pokemon Go, and this is how he found the spoon. It does not say what Pokemon he was tracking.
Sure, but it also said he had a wife, so I don't believe he was playing Pokemon Go.
And he's 52. He's 52, and he has his wife, and he's out playing Pokemon Go at 7 in the morning in Phoenix, Arizona.
You know, sometimes people gotta stay active. It's the little things that help you stay active. We're not gonna harsh too much on this guy doing this thing.
No, absolutely not. You know what? When I'm 52, I'm probably going to be doing something just as lame. It's probably true. And you know what? I'm going to be finding a Zapdos, hopefully, at that point. If for getting a reward like that, you should be able to get. Well, it would be an Ice-type Pokemon, I suppose, if you're going to get rewarded with a Blizzard.
I don't think Pokemon Go is rewarding them with the Blizzards.
No. But the people at the Dairy Queen, remember, they said that they offered a reward of a free Blizzard treat for anyone who helped facilitate the spoon's return. Although Foster did say that he doesn't need a reward, honestly, we're just glad they're gonna get their spoon back, he said. They still haven't apparently found who stole the spoon, but, Alex, I'm going to tell you this right now. My conspiracy theory brain is coming into play here, because I think I know who stole the spoon. You ready for this?
Frosty.
That's a good answer. But no, I kept thinking to myself, who would need a spoon that big? And why would you need a spoon that big?
I mean, in Arizona?
Yeah.
Sasquatch. I was thinking Yeti, but it's too hot.
No.
So.
Hear me out. Cocaine Bear. It was Cocaine Bear. What else would need a spoon that large, Alex? There's too much cocaine for him to get. He needs the spoon.
Obviously, you need to have a spoon you can...
Well, yeah, exactly.
You don't do that with cocaine, but it's fine.
You can... Or plastic spoons. I don't think that that's necessarily a good idea. But, at any rate, look, it could be Cocaine Bear, maybe it's not cocaine, we don't really know. They haven't found that. I don't know exactly the, ins and outs, the mechanics of how they would have unscrewed with the claw, but the point is, we wanted to give you a good news story, and the good news story is that the giant plastic spoon is indeed back at the Dairy Queen, and it is in part thanks to a mobile game known as Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go to the Dairy Queen. Yeah.
This is the gaming adjacent news. Welcome.
It has something to do with games, and thus I talk about it on the show. But let's face it, it was worth it for the stretch, wasn't it? It was.
I guess it was a thing.
It was.
I now want a Blizzard though, so Dairy Queen sponsor this segment, please.
We're just doing advertising for Dairy Queen, apparently. If anybody goes and gets a Blizzard at Dairy Queen after hearing us talk about this, let them know that you heard about this on Total Pebble Knockdown, because maybe we'll get Blizzards too. Who knows? We'll start wearing the branding into Dairy Queen and kind of.
It's going to be the Blizzarding world of Dairy Potter. You're welcome.
Alex, I've got a games you didn't think we'd play for you.
All right. What game did you not think you would play? Did I not think you would play, maybe?
Well, I feel like this is a little bit of a cheat, because people might have thought that I was going to play this game just because I really have an affection for Arcane Studios, and I've liked their games in the past, like, Dishonored and Prey. But anyway, the game that we're talking about is very recently released Redfall. And, I had seen the direct that they had done where they showed the footage and everything, and I was like, okay, that's a game about...
Yeah, I saw a little bit when they had the trailer, I think.
I was a little concerned, to be honest with you, because I had just tried Deathloop, which was also Arcane Studios, and I wasn't a big fan of Deathloop. I didn't like the gameplay loop, the idea that you had to assassinate all of these targets without dying, because otherwise you go back to the beginning of the game, and that's the loop of death that you go through and everything. I wasn't a big fan of that.
Yeah, I don't think I played Deathloop.
No, you probably haven't played much from Arcane. Did you play
I
Dishonored?
played Loop Hero. No, I didn't. I have Dishonored now, but I haven't played it.
And I know that you didn't play Prey.
I have that and also have not played it.
Yeah.
So no, I have not played much from Arcane.
You have not played anything from Arcane. No. Which is too bad, because Dishonored and Prey are excellent games. They're excellent games, and they were really great examples of the immersive sim. So when Redfall came out, they were like, it's an immersive sim, but it's going to be more open world, and it can be a multiplayer game and all of this, and you're going to go and you're going to hunt vampires, and there's a few different character classes that you can play. Terrific. Okay, fine. I guess I'll give it a try. And it launched a few days ago, and so I thought that I would that I would try it. So things don't start well. Let me see if I can explain this. When Arcade does a game, it has a tendency to really start you off feeling, as an immersive sim hopefully does, that you are in that world, where you are literally immersed in the game world right up at the front. You know, you think about Dishonored, and there's that part where you're as Corvo, you're going up to that palace, and you are just absolutely engulfed in the framework of this game, and you're having these conversations with the characters, and they're right in your face and directly interacting with you. Prey, you're in your apartment, you go into the helicopter, look out over that city, and the music starts, and you're right there. In Redfall, they do this, like, still frame cutscene at the beginning of, like, key art, and they have a narrator telling you what the story is while those still frames are showing on screen. Not particularly immersive. And then after about 5 minutes of watching that, they have you on a boat. And you're on this boat that has been beached because vampires somehow made the seas, like, rise up around you. But you didn't actually see that in a cinematic, because there wasn't a cinematic. There was a still frame of key art that showed that to you. And when I started to see that, I was like, now, I've seen this style before, but it's usually on, like, top-down or smaller indie games where they don't have fully rendered characters in the game. So it's weird that they chose to do that here, and I could only think that maybe they were doing it because of budgetary reasons. But then, when I get on the boat, it kind of, like, blurs your vision, and as your vision unblurs, there's a vampire feeding in front of you, and the vampires are coming towards you, and then, like, a vampire queen comes through the door and kind of goes, oh, yeah, I was hoping that I'd meet you, and then there's a sunlight thing that happens, and they all go away, and you have to get off of the boat. Now, so I'm getting the impression at that point, oh, there are fully rendered characters in this game. Okay, so that's something. I don't know why we did the keyframe thing to begin with, but okay, we're fine. And then I start moving around the boat. The controller insists on taking me from about 0 to 100 in terms of the speed of my mouse cursor, where like I'll start moving a little bit, and it's doing nothing. And then I move it a little bit more, and my head whips around to the other side of the screen. And then they actually introduce me to combat, and the first thing that you fight...
Is it Vampire Queen?
No, they're just dudes.
Oh, okay.
They're just people, because this town is not just populated with vampires, you see. It's mostly populated with just these human cult members.
And they worship the vampires?
Yeah, kinda. Sorta. It's unclear. But they do say that they are cultists. These cultists, with my starting pistol, could be taken down in one shot to the head, or pretty much 2 shots to anywhere else on their body. So there's that. It specifically states at the beginning that you can play your way. And I liked that idea because that's what you figure an immersive sim is. I'm going to have different ways to address an issue. You can be stealthy, or you can go straight up to the enemies. But when I started to realize how easy it was to dispatch the enemies, I stopped thinking that stealth was actually a useful thing to do at all, because there didn't seem to be much reason to it.
So it's, you can stealth, but honestly, you'd be fine running and gunning.
I found it was usually more effective than anything else. If I did any kind of stealth, it was mostly to try and position myself in a better spot so I could open fire on the enemies therein. But there is also this other problem, which is that most of the enemies are stupid. And
Yeah, I saw something about the AI of the general enemies being rather dumb.
Let me see if I can explain this to you in these terms. So I go into one of these buildings where it's like the vampire lair, right? There's the vampire lairs. And they have me go through this building, and there's this locked door, and it's got this like blue light coming from underneath the door. And I'm like, oh, there's probably something bad in there. But it's a locked door, and you need a specific key. So I go through like to the basement. I get this key, and it's a key to the master bedroom. Okay, so I go back to the key, and I unlock the door, and there, like just suspended in air, is a vampire. But it's not just a vampire; it's a named vampire. It's like Nurse Ada or something. Okay, and I go up to the vampire. It does nothing. It's just hovering in the air. I'm a foot away from it. Pop, pop, dead. 5 seconds. Done and dusted. Literally, dusted.
Usually your named characters take a bit more damage before they die.
Yes. Yes, usually they do.
I've been playing World of Warcraft, and there are these big bosses that pop up every so often on the island that you're doing on for Dragonflight, because they're part of each part, and they just kind of respawn in a rotation. Okay. I can't just go up to one of these guys with over 1 million hit points and kill them in 2 hits.
I don't really need enemies to be damage sponges. I don't like damage sponges, because sometimes sometimes they just add another health bar just to lengthen the combat. But again, this is Arcane. Boss battles in Arcane are these mysteries of how you're going to address them and how you're going to get around them and how you're going to trick them. Like, I remember in Dishonored 2 that there was like a whole ball you have to attend for this target. You have to infiltrate the party. You have to find a mask. You have to go through the rafters, or you have to get an invitation to get in there. And you have to figure out a way to like drug the person and get them out of the party. And there's like a whole thing you gotta do. And if you fail at that and you alert the guards, there's 1 million guards on you immediately. And there's sirens blaring and everybody's freaking out. And so you gotta really think this stuff through and how you're going to address an issue. In Redfall, I hit a trigger twice, and the boss is dead. So you remember that thing where I said maybe they had the still frames because there are no, like, character animations or characters in the game? Well, that illusion gets shaken pretty quickly because you get to the fire station, clear out the fire station. By the way, I'm going to say that there is one major problem with the fire station. They put a fire pole in there and you cannot slide down the fire pole. Want to point that out. If you put a fire pole in a game, you better be able to slide down the fire pole. Just saying.
Yeah, it's like putting dogs in games that you can't pet. Don't do it.
Not acceptable. I'm sorry. That pretty much just took me out of the experience altogether. But the point is, get to the fire station, clear out the fire station, and you save people that are, hiding out behind a door. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, cool, there are people behind the door. As soon as I open the door, it gets to another one of those static cutscenes where I'm just seeing the painted key art of the characters coming out and saying thank you for saving them. And then they show these other key arts of them cleaning up the fire station to turn it into a safe house. And I'm thinking, oh, I guess I don't interact with them at all. Except after they do that, the characters in full 3D rendered models are just hanging out around the firehouse. So why didn't I just have a cutscene where they were talking to me directly to keep me in the action, because it's an immersive sim, right? I want to be immersed.
Yeah. You would think it'd be easier to just do that than to have different art made.
You would think
instead of an engine in-engine cutscene.
You would think. Them calling this an immersive sim is very, very generous to immersive sims in general.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't call any game that's a like first person shooter kind of game an immersive sim.
There's a lot of reasons why I wouldn't really necessarily call this an immersive sim. One of them is the rarity color-coded loot system, which does not feel like it makes sense in an immersive sim, to be honest with you. But more importantly than that,
Yeah, that's more of a looter shooter than
it
anything,
it is.
typically.
And I would have really liked it if they were more interesting, but chances are if you're getting like the green and the blue and the purple and the orange rarities, they're the same basic weapon as you had when they were just the white version, but with some stat bonuses on them. It's not like in Borderlands where if you get a legendary weapon, it functions completely differently. It's like a special red text weapon. These are just like, here's a stake launcher, or here's your UV gun, or here's your sniper rifle, but it's purple now, so it also gets a 25% damage bonus. Here's the legendary, or the unparalleled, I think is what they call it in this, the unparalleled rarity of the shotgun, and it has a really cool look to it, and it has a special stake in the front, so that when you go up to vampires, it looks even cooler when you stake them with the shotgun. That's
Does
fun.
it do more damage because of the stake?
No, the whole thing about vampires in this game is that you can deal damage to them with a regular weapon, but stakes are what really does it, and you can only like kill them with a stake. So the stake has to be on your weapon, and if you have a weapon that doesn't have a stake, it can't actually kill the vampire. So you have to switch to a weapon that does have the stake in order to do it. Well, that's what they tell you at the beginning, but it actually turns out UV, fire, setting them on fire because they were next to a car explosion, those also apparently killed the vampires, so. And then there's a stake launcher where you can just snipe them from like 50 feet away, like I did a couple times, with a stake to the head that kills them. I saw 3 different kinds of enemies. There are the human enemies, there are the vampires, and then there was something called a blood bag, which is basically a human that has like a blood on them that I guess vampires use to feed. They're basically humans that just have this big sack that you can shoot.
Do they explode?
A little bit. I mean, you get blood all over your clothes. It's not fun.
Right.
It's not fun. You get 4 different character classes to pick from. I ended up choosing the occultist guy. He has like spiritual necromancy stuff. He's got a raven. He can send his raven out, and it highlights enemies for him. I only picked that because my cat was with me at the time, and when I was going through the character classes, I was like, hey, Pepper, which one do you like? And when she saw the one that had the raven, she put her paw in my hand, as if to say, that one, Nathan, you take that one. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that one. There's a lot of open worldly stuff where, like, you can go on specific missions and areas, liberate different areas, and you start to realize that this does have, like, a lot of the open world elements that you're used to in a lot of these big sandboxy kind of games. But there's not a lot of content to it. You probably also saw, if you heard anybody talk about it, that there's a bit of sparseness to this.
Yeah.
I went into the church where the Reverend had fled. Like the Reverend, and it was a sanctuary that they had set up, and you get the impression that they probably left because there were all these vampires in the church. I go into the church. I go into every room in the church. I open the doors to the main room. I go up into the eaves. There's nothing in the church. There's no enemies in the church at all. There's no vampires in the church. There's no humans set up in the church. There's plenty of supplies in the lobby that you would think somebody would want. Tons of water. No enemies in the game. There was something that was pointed out when I was reading one of the reviews where they were talking about Warren Spector. And Warren Spector was the guy who made the original Deus Ex. And
Right.
he was talking about this idea of what the immersive sim is supposed to be. And the immersive sim for him was like the old way that you would do game design was you had to find the key for the door, and then when you found the key for the door, you could open the door and you could proceed on to the rest of the game. And in an immersive sim, there should be all these different ways that you can address the door when the door is locked. You could pick the lock, could kick it in, you could blow it up, you could get somebody to open the door for you. And Redfall will kind of do that, where you can have a lock pick, or something like that, but you really can't kick in the doors. You can't really punch the doors. I could punch in windows. Sometimes they would allow you to get in from the second story of a building, but the procedure is pretty much still the same. I go through the building, I hit the enemies with my one hit and stuff, and then I move on to the next thing, and they say my vampire lair is clear. Congratulations. It fundamentally, it doesn't change any of the story. It doesn't change how the landscape works. It doesn't change the world or the narrative. It doesn't change your character's story arc. Even when you're talking to the people themselves, you don't actually have a dialogue tree. You just walk up to them and they start talking and just say, so you'll do that mission now, and you get a mission log that says that you do. You don't actually interact with them. I don't know what happened to Arcane.
Yeah, it sounds like they went from, what was the last game they made, Dishonored 2?
Well, it was Deathloop, which was
Deathloop, right.
Interesting, okay. But not my cup of tea. But no, they went from Prey and Dishonored to this, and I'm getting the impression that maybe immersive sims don't work very well for open world settings. That doesn't seem to work very well, because like one of the great things, although Prey was kind of open world, but the thing that was really great about Dishonored and Prey is that as you're going through the game and as you're experiencing the game and doing the story missions and stuff, the world around you changes. The world around you molds to the decisions that you've made in the game. In Prey, if you take too many of these like Typhon, like alien upgrades, the turrets, the security systems in the game will not recognize you as human anymore and will start attacking you.
Perfect. I love that.
If you do that. As you keep progressing in the story, more Typhon appear in areas where you previously were. You know, all of a sudden there's more shadow monsters where once there were not. In Dishonored, if you kill a lot of people instead of knocking them out, the plague gets worse. These weepers keep showing up. There's more rats in the streets. The world gets more and more and more dystopic and chaotic if you've created the chaos in that game. If you play carefully and you don't kill people and you knock them out and you try to place them aside, the weepers don't show up. The plague doesn't continue. The rats don't profligate when you go back to the city over and over again. In Redfall, it's the same thing over and over again with just some basic open world elements of go here, collect this loot box that has a few things in it, and move on to the next thing. And that is a disappointment to me in so many ways.
Yeah, it pretty much it just sounds like the entirety of the experience is just a disappointment.
It is, and what was funny is that recently I played another game too that was called Ghostwire Tokyo. In that one, you are also dealing with supernatural forces in a like an open world city that has like open world elements where you have to use supernatural abilities to destroy them. And surprisingly, both of these games also have like mysterious fog areas that you cannot cross without getting damaged. And what's really weird is, so I mentioned Redfall's from Arcane, and Arcane is one of the studios that Bethesda owns. Ghostwire Tokyo is from Tango Gameworks, which is also a studio that Bethesda owns.
Which is all owned by Microsoft now.
Right. And but I'm sitting here thinking to myself, maybe this is not the kind of game that Bethesda or its studios is really supposed to be making, like these open world first-person action games, because when I started thinking back on it, it's like, what did the other studios do? Okay, so like id is one of their studios. What was the last one that they did? Like, Rage 2 is the last time they tried this open world, like, action collectathon sandbox, and it wasn't very good. It was okay, but it was kind of mid. And then what was like when Machine Games did one, it was Wolfenstein Youngblood, the worst of the Wolfensteins. And I don't know if they're just greenlighting it because they needed content to come out.
I don't know. I played a game recently. I'm not gonna get into it now, but it was a shooter looter kind of game also, but not open world,
Oh, okay.
and it was still mid at best.
Yeah. Maybe in
Tell you a bit.
another games you didn't think we'd play, we could talk
Yeah,
about
that or I'll talk about it on the live maybe a bit.
Okay. I started playing it before I saw any of the reviews. I started playing it the day after it launched, basically. And
Yeah, it's sitting at when I looked at it yesterday, I think it was at mostly negative, 1,500 reviews on Steam. 1,000 of them were negative.
a lot of these issues started for me before I heard anybody else talk about it. And I sat there and I kind of thought to myself, it feels a little like an arcade game. There's something that isn't working for me. And I couldn't really pinpoint it. And I think I needed other people to explain it in better terms before I could really pinpoint what I was seeing and what I was feeling. But those initial moments with the game where I'm like, it's really weird that they're presenting the game in this way, and the structure of the game and how it's laid out. It feels like they wanted to create a multiplayer more experience rather than a single player, which is not what I want in an immersive sim at all. I don't want a color-coded rarity system where I just pick up a bunch of guns. I don't want to just deal with a bunch of generic enemies. I want something that's more personalized than that, and I want the story to evolve and the world to grow as time goes on. It's not even the technical issues of it, even though there are technical issues with it. It's that the game itself doesn't really function very well. You'd have to do a lot of work to make it fun.
Yeah.
In a way that it isn't right now. Oh, I should have also mentioned, this is something that a lot of reviews didn't talk about, but if you die, because occasionally they'll just swarm you with enemies out of nowhere for reasons.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
My favorite, yeah. When you die, they basically reload you to the nearest fast travel point. You lose absolutely nothing in the process. The punishment for dying is basically, I have to now remember where I was and run back to that location. Oh, the reason I say I have to remember where I was is because they do not automatically give you drop points on the map for your mission objectives. I have to go to my map, and I have to specifically ping an area where my mission objective is.
I feel like the meta here would be to get to where you want to go, do the objective, and find a way to die so you can just get right back to your fast travel point.
That would probably do... You know what? If anyone speedruns the game, do that. Because it's probably the easiest thing for you to do. The fun thing that happened to me the one time, though, because I did wonder if the environment interacted with itself at any point. And I ran across this area where there were dudes in a firefight, and it wasn't with me. And I thought, oh, cool. And it seemed like there was the one mercenary group, I think they're Bellwether, and then the Hollow Man cultists were fighting each other, and I was like, oh cool, so the environment will actually work with itself. But then I realized that the thing that I could just do is I just waited until the firing stopped, and there was one dude left, and I shot him once in the head, because obviously not very hard, and then I just collected all the loot.
Did they all drop loot?
They all drop stuff.
What the fuck?
Also,
usually games like that, enemies don't drop loot unless you're the one to kill them.
Well, okay, so this is while I'm complaining, they will all have guns with them, different kinds of guns, but you can't pick up those guns.
Most games don't do that, even though that would be the thing you think they would, do.
Right. I also wouldn't think that there would be ammunition limits.
And there are?
Yeah.
I hate that.
You cannot pick up more than 15 stakes to start for your stake launcher. And it's they keep dropping ammunition all over the place, but it's why can't I just pick up whatever I got in the thing? They do it because there's upgrades, and there's upgrades to upgrade the ammunition counts that you can have for different weapons.
And get rid of those!
Yeah, exactly.
Game design tip 101.
Yeah.
Don't limit the amount of... Unless you're going for a survival thing where weight is a factor.
Yeah.
Don't limit the amount of ammunition you can carry.
Right. Right.
And if you have a skill tree dedicated to how much ammo I can carry,
Yeah.
remove it for something more fun.
Yeah. This, again, if you're doing an immersive sim, that doesn't make sense. If you wanted to have an ammo count that took up space in an inventory and then you could manage how much ammunition you wanted to carry with you at any time.
That would make more sense.
I've done that. I've seen that plenty of times. That makes perfect sense, but it's not. It's just like an arbitrary count that you have for the guns that you use. There's all these skill trees. And as I was going through the skill trees, I kept thinking to myself, what among these skill trees do I even want? Because these upgrade my ammo capacity. These give me more health for my allies when I heal them, but I'm playing by myself. These increase my regeneration abilities when I'm down to like 30% health, but by the time I'm there, I'm either dead or it never happens. These are things that give me extra headshot damage to humans, but again, I can headshot them with one shot already, so why am I doing that? And then everything else is like for your special abilities, but I didn't even want to invest in those because I never used my Raven, because I never needed to spotlight where the enemies were, because the second I walked up, I saw all of these little like yellow question marks that were immediately over the heads of every enemy that I couldn't see who was curious about the sound that was being made in the first place, so I automatically knew where they all were. And then I could just kind of like walk slightly over to the side and ping them in the head because they're not very observant. So I kept thinking to myself, like, I don't even know why I have an upgrade tree. There's not a lot that I even want for the skill tree upgrades.
Felt like when I was playing Borderlands, and I was just like, I don't want half of this shit. What the fuck?
The original Borderlands especially, there's not great. They did better in later iterations with like what you got, but it's the skill trees were So anyway, Redfall, I don't know what happened. This is like Twilight but video game. But also not sparkly vampires, and also does not have Robert Pattinson or Kristen Stewart.
Probably be better if they did.
I really wish that they did. Do you understand that if they actually had a Twilight story in this that had those characters in it, it would have been a better story? It would have been a better story and more interesting, and the characters would have been fun. I want that. Can we make a Twilight mod for Redfall? Please. I need a Twilight mode for Redfall.
This has been a soapbox of a games you didn't think we'd put.
And I don't think I'm going back to it. So if you improve upon it now, Arcane, I'm sorry. I'm pretty much pieced out. So.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people probably have.
Yeah, so anyway, that was a lot. Let's move on to something more interesting. Alex, I got a crit think for you. Because I saw this thing pop up in one of the forums. The poster writes, "My players have taken some wildly inaccurate notes. Should I correct them? I maintain a Discord for use with my D&D game that has, among other various channels, a place for players to freely jot down notes and keep track of NPCs they've met. Recently, I poked my nose into there and realized they had noted down information about an important antagonist's loyalties that was, frankly, completely incorrect. I know for a fact that the information they got in character was from an accurate and reputable source, and it seems to me that they just misheard or misinterpreted that information in the moment, because I, as the DM, definitely did not say, or did not mean to say, what they had written down. This may later prove important, as the allegiance between this antagonist and larger forces at work is tenuous, and could be exploited by a clever party to turn evil upon itself. Were you the DM, would you correct this error on the part of your players? Or would you allow them to be wrong and let it bite them later? Any advice on how to approach this would be appreciated." Okay.
So I'm gonna have to pull that up myself.
The upshot here. Players have written down notes incorrectly. And it's kind of important because it's main characters in this storyline, and it could be make or break. Do we correct the error, or do we let them be wrong?
So they obtained information from a second party in-game,
Yes.
from a source. Maybe they interpreted it incorrectly.
Maybe they did?
Which, in that case, 100% don't correct them. If they get information, we went over this before, on a different segment. If your player characters or your characters receive information and they believe it to be true or false, that is on them.
Yes.
So, like, if they go, oh, this is totally incorrect information, but we 100% believe it.
Yeah.
And I think it was about the evil guys, like, their weaknesses.
Big bad evil guy. Yeah, weaknesses.
Yeah. So it's like, if you get information that this guy's allergic to silver, and you fully believe it, and you come prepared with silver, and he's not allergic to silver, that's on you.
And if all of the players are apparently on the same page of being wrong, I'm particularly concerned, because you would think that in-game, the players who had correct information could try to corroborate it and say, wait, that's not what I heard, and they could actually deal with this. But if they all literally got this information collectively wrong, I can't help you. I don't want to correct you for that. This would have been correct information. If they noted it down wrongly, it's because they did so of their own volition or not paying attention. So, me personally, no, I wouldn't correct them, but I would actually go a step further. I want to utilize that for the story. I want to utilize that so that we actually take that incorrect information and we work off of it to build the story that's even better. So they've received incorrect information, and it's the difference between, like, an antagonist and larger forces at work that's tenuous. And so they use that incorrect information. And I set this up so that now they're the catalyst for this bigger problem to present itself because of the incorrect information that they've received.
Yeah.
I would go with the let them be wrong and let it bite them later, but more importantly, make sure that that biting is even more story rich than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, honestly, if it's not your fault, it was misinterpreted.
Yes.
Like, if the players just believe this, it's like, this person gave us information, but I don't trust them.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not going to communicate, if they're not going to do checking the person's motives or seeing if they're lying or anything like that, if they don't do any of that and they just want to firmly believe, this guy's lying to us, or this guy's telling the truth, that's on them. Yeah. Let that drive the story.
Right.
Players and characters don't have to go with every single machination that you put into your story, and they often won't.
Right.
So if you write the story one way and they go, oh shit, this thing, not true, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
You can still let them do it. Write it into the story then. Be like, yeah, so party thinks he's allergic to silver. Joke's on them. He's into that shit.
And it turns out that Skeletor was your enemy the entire time.
Yeah.
Perfect. But yeah, you make it make sense, because again, I think that we talked about this on the last episode about free will. I think characters do have free will to make terrible, terrible decisions. And to be wrong, and let them be wrong, because it's going to be an important lesson for them later. If you're just going to correct their behavior and say, oh no, you got these notes wrong, then they will not try paying attention in the future. You want to tell them that, yeah, hey, you should have paid better attention, or ask some other questions here, so that they pay attention in storyline in the future. This is something that would happen in real life, and if you want it to be immersive, you figure that it would happen in game. There's an edit to this post at the end.
Oh, good.
That says, "Thanks for your input, everyone. Seems the general feeling is I should correct this misunderstanding, and that it wouldn't be obtrusive to do so, so that's what I'll do. You got bad information. That's not the answer."
I feel like it depends on your player group, obviously. Like, if I was gonna do that, it would not be with a group of new players.
No.
Who just got something wrong. It would be with an established group. It'd be like, alright, you guys clearly think this. I might check with them, ask them about their notes beforehand, be like, all right, what were your notes from before that you have? So they can read over it, and then as a group, they might go, oh shit, we took that note wrong without you prompting it.
Yeah.
Or you could just, even then, you could like prompt it, be like, hey, just wanted to double check your notes. Is everything you got there correct?
Right. This is also helpful at the beginning of the session where you're kind of like going, okay, where did we leave off? Does anyone want to tell us what we were doing? You know, gives them that prompt. There's also the possibility too that if you happen to know that they're, new players or they're not familiar with the system and maybe they did get something wrong or misinterpreted, maybe you can present another opportunity where you can provide information that would be correct. Give them another good old pass to say, oh, wait, that's not what I thought was happening. Oh, so it's this? They come across a document that states the information outright, and maybe they get it that way if they've searched for it, reward them for doing more investigation into it, something to that effect. You can be subtle about it. You don't have to just outright say, okay, so listen, you guys are shit at taking notes. So I'm going to tell you what the story is so that you can write it down correctly. Okay, plebs? You don't have to do that. And I would encourage people not to do that because that seems like a really easy way to take people out of the experience. But you could subtly lead them back onto the path with the correct information, or at least give them a second try. However, if you get a second try and they still screw it up, all bets are off. I'm just doing all bets are off at that point. I am not helping you anymore.
You can't be too heavy-handed with that, because if players want to do a thing the way they want to do it too, or they just want to stick to their guns, and it's like, all right, well, you guys are obviously going to do the thing you want to do, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You just kind of roll with it.
Exactly. Hey, listen, if you have players that meet the dragon and swear that the way you greet dragons is by punching them in the nose, and you cannot deter them from that, and you can give them a piece of material that says, dragons actually don't like getting punched in the nose. I don't know if you're aware. They don't like getting booped in the snoot.
Do not boop a dragon snoot.
Do not boop the dragon snoot. If you keep giving them that and they kind of go, I still want to do it. All right. I'm done trying. I've tried. I have failed. It's on you now. Go for it. You aggroed the dragon burns you to a crisp. Congratulations. Crispy. If it's an obvious mistake that they just didn't hear it correctly, or maybe you didn't say it correctly, especially if it's on the case of the DM not explaining it correctly, I'm more forgiving in that case. Like, if it's a problem with the person running the game did not give the information out the way that they intended, I'm a little bit more forgiving. But if you've made it clear and you've tried to get them to where they're supposed to be, and they're still not paying attention, and they're still not taking notes correctly, then they're gonna have to get punished for it. And I say punished in terms of making it make sense for the story, not just making it hell for them because they didn't do what you wanted them to do.
Yeah, don't just kill players the way I do, apparently.
Hey, you know what? They did want to go out into the woods and hunt a boar, right? So
I warned them anyways.
Yeah. The boars, the bears. Let me tell you about the boars and the bears, kids. If it's a literal misunderstanding about, like, playing telephone and getting information from one person to another, I suppose that's one thing, but there's other ways to do that besides just outright saying, hey, you did it wrong. You can make that a little bit more subtle and put it in game so that it's more of the role-playing experience. I guess we can post a question to everyone out there, since this is a crit think. Should you tell your players they are wrong?
Why not?
Maybe it's fun.
Maybe they'll storm out of your game telling you you're a jerk.
Maybe they will. Is that worth it? Let us know in the comments down below.
Get those comments.
Don't stop.
Tell us how you shouldn't tell your players they're wrong.
Yep, don't stop. Get it. or Don't Stop Reddit. Alex, this has been all the pebbles that we can knock down for the day, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody who listened. Alex, if folks wanted to find out more about all the pebbles that they can knock down totally, where could they go on the internet?
You can find all sorts of information over at TotalPebbleKnockdown.com.
TotalPebbleKnockdown.com, where you can find all of the episodes of this show, of Titanium Mine. You can find some wonderful artwork by Crave on Creatures. And you can also click on our Patreon banner, where we have some exclusives for our patrons, including full-length video episodes that go up before any of the segments ever release, and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, or basically what we would refer to as the crap that doesn't make it into the show. And so you can enjoy
Conversations that are not on topic.
Conversations that are not on topic, nor, well, more not on topic than the actual episode itself. So there's that. And feel free to check us out on every podcast app known to mankind. And you can also find us on social media. I am at Titanium.
I am sometimes at EXP Limited, and our show is at Pebble Knockdown.
So you can catch up on all of the goings-on over there. And so with that, I think that we can finally get out of here. I want to find a giant spoon to try and take on some vampires right now.
What are you going to use the spoon to take on the vampires for? It's not a wooden spoon with a stake on the end, is it?
No, but you know what I could do? I could fill that spoon up with holy water and use it like a catapult. Fling the holy water onto the...
ballista.
Like a ballista. I need a giant red spoon ballista that I can fling onto the vampires. That would have made that game a whole lot more interesting. That would have really improved Redfall if I could have had a giant holy water ballista. But here we are. Thank you for joining us. We will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.
Bye!